Today's talk is entitled 3 Days of Darkness, the Birth of the Fifth Son. My channel was set up to discuss my findings on the Orb bar wave and how it relates to ancient mythology. This is another video in which I will be trying to explain some ancient mythology in relation to the days of darkness which were referenced in the Old Testament. They were also referenced by the Hopi, and I dare say that if I spend a lot more time digging around, that you could find worldwide references of the days of darkness, particularly the number 3 days. So what I will do now is just talk you through where this occurs in terms of biblical reference and what was said, and where it refers to in terms of Egyptian or Old Testament. I think it's in the Exodus where this darkness occurs. And so Exodus 21:22, and the Lord said unto Moses, stretch out thy hand towards heaven, and there may be darkness over the land of Egypt, even darkness which may be felt in the hand. That's an interesting observation, even darkness which may be felt. So there's something about this darkness which is energetic, and a different type of energy, and any energy workers may be able to offer an opinion as to what is occurring in those woods. That is not the purpose of this video. I could explain it, but it would take me off track. And Moses stretched forth his hand towards heaven. There was a thick darkness in all the land of Egypt for 3 days. So science would say, well, this is ridiculous. But of course the Hopi over the other side of the planet also have a similar reference to these events. And so it wasn't as though the earth had stopped turning. It was, it can't really be explained in any modern current physics. So I'll just read a little bit more about the plague of darkness. In the 9th plague, God commanded Moses to stretch up his hand to the sky to bring darkness upon Egypt. This darkness was so heavy that an Egyptian could physically feel it. They couldn't work or do activities. They were unable to track time for the lack of light, and they even had a hard time interacting with each other. The Egyptians had to rely on the sense of touch and hearing. It lasted for 3 days, during which the time there was light in the homes of the Israelites. Pharaoh then called Moses and offered to let all the Israelites leave if the darkness would be removed from his land. So it's suggesting that Moses created this darkness. Obviously it's people they claim to all sorts of events that can be explained. However, he required that the cattle and sheep stay. Moses refused any compromise and went on to say that the Pharaoh must allow them to take the animals. Pharaoh enraged then threatened to execute Moses if he should appear before the Pharaoh. Moses replied that he would indeed not visit the Pharaoh again. This plague was an attack aimed directly at Pharaoh's god Ra, the sun god. So the Egyptian sun god introduced the plague of darkness. Moses attempted to demonstrate the clear power of Yahweh and the folly of worship in the Egyptian gods. Obviously these mythologies contain partial truths. But the sun going out for 3 days is recorded in those biblical texts. The truth of them, the Hopi also have a similar example of the sun going out for 3 days. So I'll read you a little quote. Another example comes from the Mayan high priest of Maya, who prophesied that in 1990 you and I may meet again so he's obviously talking to someone who's met him in another dimension after the year zero. So again, it's very fluffy, it's supernatural in real terms. The year zero is the world of the Maya. On March 31st, 2013, so we've passed that date, the sun will be hidden for a period of 60 to 70 hours, which gives you the 3 days in effect. And this is when we shall enter the period of the fifth sun. Then you will realize what the Mayans speak are facts, not false preachings. What we are saying, we are not saying the world will end. There are false ones who say things to frighten and threaten the world without awakening. But the Mayan priests and astronomers know what is happening and see what shall happen in the future. This is my only message. I do not come to intimidate you. I come to say we should love one another. Let us walk together. We are all children. We pray for the Father to be with us. So the quote is reference to the completion of the 13th back tune at the beginning of the next cycle of the Mayan Tolkien, dated the 13th Ahau. So there's reference to the sun going black in Mayan and also Hopi prophecy. So how can this occur? Well, I'm going to demonstrate now, or at least show you a little bit of evidence as to how this can occur. This following image is an image of black, what we would class as black orbs, and white orbs. So we talk about this in the book. It's been a long time since I've read it, where there are orbs that seem to absorb light, or no light will be reflected off them. And if you imagine now these black orbs floating around in the 15th century, if they were coming from the direction of the sun, they would create a little more, what would look like a sunspot in effect. Now, what we have is a phenomenon that I've been posting videos up of the sun interacting with orbs, and there's a video, Our Changing Sun and WIMP Orbs. It's maybe a bit technical for people, but the orbs are forming on the sun. And what we have now is what I've done is I've scaled the size of those orbs. Now there would be 15 to go across the diameter, and in real terms 110 Earths would go across the diameter. So this is massive in comparison to the Earth. And if one of these moved towards the Earth from the sun, it would black out the sun. If you have a look at the orb attached at the bottom, you'll notice it appears black and the coronal light doesn't penetrate it, very much like the black orbs that we've observed. What I've done is shown how the strands, how the orb collects and delivers energy through its strand system. And so you can imagine now that a fully charged orb, in effect, moving towards the sun, could black out the sun for days. And what we have currently, this is a current photograph of the sun taken from the helioviewer, is a massive orb forming on the north pole of the sun, or to the vertical portion of the sun. This is bigger than any other orb that I've ever seen interacting with the sun. And It could be the answer to what the Mayan and Hopi were talking about as the days of darkness, in which light from the sun is switched off. Now, I was talking to, or put into darkness, not switched off. I mean, the sun would still be shining, but the orb, in effect, because of its properties of not absorbing light, would actually put the earth into shadow. Now, these orbs enter the earth all the time. We just don't see them. They are massless. But if the frequency of these orbs, particularly the black orb, is repelling light, or not absorbing light, then that darkness will come. So I thought I would put this video together just to explain the possibility of this darkness and how it could be explained simply by an orb moving towards the planet. I was talking to a colleague about the implications of this, and of course these orbs interact with every single listener. What they haven't got is the data that backs that up. But the orb, and many of my other videos, I talk about the placebo effect. I believe the orb to interact with the DNA that doesn't encode proteins, and thus it will interact with the very nature of the whole of life's DNA, or at least the portion that does, the junk DNA that doesn't encode proteins, bringing around a worldwide change. These worldwide changes have been predicted for years, and the ancients obviously knew and understood this. That is a petroglyph. It's 5,000 years old, and it's how the ancient energy workers understood the worldwide concept, which is explained as prana, chi, life force, vital force, and is the core of the majority of my videos. Thank you very much. Hope it makes sense. Goodbye.